From the New Arts and Media Studios in Milwaukee, I'm Charles Purcell. This is The Log. Let's start with a kind of personal note. Feeling kind of sad here. The loss of Wisconsin Public Radio News here in Milwaukee. You know, wherever you are, I'm sure you've faced this. Local newspapers, local radio stations, local news outlets suffering over the years. And we're losing one here. Wisconsin Public Radio isn't going anywhere. They're still very strong, although they have jettisoned some of their local and state content in favor of, I guess it's cheaper to run the national shows. So there's still going to be a statewide network. There's still a powerful force, especially when it comes to election coverage and news coverage from the state capitol. Really important service. And that's why it's so sad that they're not going to be in Milwaukee anymore. They've shut down the station. Well, they haven't. It's going to be music now. Just to give you a general idea of how this works, Wisconsin Public Radio has two networks, a music network and a news network. Most folks in the state get both. In other words, one frequency of their dial, they can get WPR music. The other frequency of their dial, they can get WPR news. For some reason here in Milwaukee, we just have the one station. And in their wisdom, the bosses in Madison have decided that we here in Milwaukee are going to get the music feed and not the news feed. And that's very sad. I worked for Wisconsin Public Radio for a few years in the mid-aughts. And it's a beautiful thing. I was very proud to work there. And it's very sad that it's gone now. And I got to confess, I'm more than a little bit angry about this too. To take the news service out of Milwaukee, to deny it to Milwaukee listeners is such a slap in the face. It's such a middle finger. I mean, Milwaukee is the only real racially diverse region of the state. We're majority-minority, like 40% black, 35% white, about 20% Hispanic. Absolutely the largest, by far, the largest metro, the largest cultural and economic engine of the state. I just find it so hard to believe that they've made this decision. It's just really, I don't know. I'm very sad about it. It's too bad. If I could wave my magic wand, I really wish we could take the infrastructure that has been created, and it really is fantastic. 38 different stations around the state. We got all the facilities and studios and towers and personnel. And if they're going to restructure Wisconsin Public Radio, which they're doing, that's what's forcing this change here. My model would be the Pacifica Network. Real, local, community stations. Imagine 38 different little tiny stations around the state with volunteer producers and hosts creating all sorts of original content. Now if you really want to serve the people of Wisconsin, if that's your mission, that's the way to do it. And then you take the very best of those programs and you bring them onto the regional level or the state level. I mean, right now, what they're doing is they're bringing most of the day now, except for a couple of local programs. They're just bringing in shows from the network, from NPR. And again, for the people of Milwaukee, zero, nothing. Yeah, so I would model this thing after Pacifica. Volunteer producers and hosts talking about everything under the sun. It's incredible. Right here at my little radio station, WXRW in Milwaukee, tiny little LP-FM. The programming is amazing. Just tune in any time of day. You never know what you're going to hear. Yeah, and with the infrastructure WPR is already built up, that could be a beautiful, beautiful thing. But that's another world. That's another world. So, yeah, so long. So long to Wisconsin Public Radio. Hey, while we're saying so long, you know who passed away? Robert McNeil. what a pioneer of talk about public broadcasting. He was right there at the beginning of PBS. And NPR, PBS, Wisconsin Public Radio, there was this magic time in the late 60s, early 70s when this was all kind of born. And Robert McNeil, of course, the founding member of PBS, and along with his partner, Jim Lehrer, created the McNeil-Lehrer Report, I think they first called it, then the News Hour. And now it's continues to this day as the PBS News Hour. And a real success story. I mean, broadcast news, we know how lame it can be, and mostly is. But their philosophy from the beginning was that, long form, in-depth, respect your audience, nuance. You can be fair without pandering to this sort of both-sidism that I'm always so critical of. And to this day, I think the News Hour still does an excellent job. I mean, they're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. And they take corporate sponsors, and so nobody's perfect. Again, go to your community stations to find the real deal. We here at our station play Democracy Now! With Amy Goodman. I'm always talking about her and that show. Just fantastic. But right now, so long to Robert McNeil. He was an old guy. He was, I think, 93. Old people die. But it's kind of sad, and it's nice to remember what he did. Nice lofty ambitions at the beginning of PBS and NPR. And they still do a pretty good job. They've still, PBS, they've still got Frontline and American Masters. But, they also have all those nighttime soap operas. I don't know. The World Channel is really good. Do you have the World Channel where you are? It's kind of an offshoot from GBH in Boston. Yeah, good old Robert McNeil. All right, so let's see what's going on in the world. Oh man, this thing, Israel, what the hell is wrong with the state of Israel? My God. Netanyahu has to go. That whole right-wing regime has to go. What a train wreck over there. For some reason, like a week or two ago, they decide it's a good idea to bomb the Iranian consulate in Syria. And they killed 2 generals, some other high-ranking officers and staff, because they're upset about how Iran helps to facilitate Hezbollah and Hamas and, and the Houthis in Yemen. And so somehow they think it's a good idea to drop a bomb on a consulate. You just don't do that. What is wrong with Benjamin Netanyahu? What a tool that guy is. So Iran has to, of course, respond because that's what countries do. Every time we get a new president, have you noticed? It happened with Barack Obama. It happened with the Orange Menace. It happens with all of them. The first time they have to bomb somebody. And all the talking heads come out and say, well, he's officially president now. He bombed somebody. He's really earned his stripes. Because that's what you do. Somebody takes action, somebody hits you, you got to hit them back. Because testosterone, I don't know. It's just the way the world works. So Iran absolutely, under this screwy system that we live under, had to respond to this flattening of their consulate in Syria. So they respond. But they did it in such a smart way. They don't want to escalate this thing. They don't want a big old regional war in the Middle East. They don't want World War III. So what do? They send a bunch of missiles and drones that they know damn well aren't going to ever hit their targets. Iran knew exactly what they were doing. They weren't very secret about it. They just kind of telegraphed it. And we get all this dramatic footage, all these missiles, and then the anti-aircraft missiles coming from Israel, lighting up the sky, taking them out. Oh, very dramatic. Because everybody knows Israel has this great Iron Dome defense system. So with the help of the United States, and might I add, with the help everybody, Jordan, Syria, all the Mideast states were helping Israel defend against these Iranian missiles who were just had nothing but a symbolic intention from the first place. They knew they weren't going to hit their targets, and none of them did. I mean, nobody was killed. Nobody. No damage done hardly at all, except one or two little spots. I think one kid was injured. I don't remember the severity, so I won't make light of that. But the whole point is Iran knew exactly what they were doing. They just had to respond. They had to play this little tit-for-tat game. But they didn't want to escalate. So, there you go. And now the rest of the world is trying to persuade Benjamin Netanyahu to just let it stand. But he's promising another tit for tat, which will need another tat, I guess. He's promising a response to Iran's response, which was really symbolic only. They knew they weren't going to hit their targets. And the rest of the world is telling Netanyahu to just, quote, take the win. You won. Your defense forces won. Your Iron Dome withheld. You had all this help from your international partners. Just take the win. But he's making threatening noises. And of course, Iran's president has to come back. He warned that the, quote, tiniest invasion by Israel would bring a massive and harsh response. Because we live in a mad, 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 mad world. And on top of that, Israel is still not letting all the aid get in that needs to get in. They're ramping up their atrocities in the West Bank never stopped because of the problem in Gaza. They did this last week, some high-profile attacks on the West Bank. Israel is just a broken, corrupt cesspool of a place right now. That government has just got to go. Ugh. Here at home, well, okay. Speaking of Israel, let's tie it back here. Aid to Israel. Bernie and I agree, and others, not another nickel. Not another nickel. He just said it again recently. Unless they change their tune. And I don't know how that's going to happen. But now it's become this big thing. If you're the kind of person who just sees the headlines and maybe you don't understand quite what's going on. Yeah, the Ukraine aid, Israel aid, also Taiwan and that region, all wrapped up in the same bill that passed the Senate with, I think, 70 votes, so wide agreement on that. Can't get past the MAGA extremists in the House. So they're still working on that, and Mike Johnson, the poor guy who's in way over his head, is trying to get this done. You know, I actually agree with Mike Johnson on something. I've always said that bills should be one at a time. They should be separate. I don't like combining all these different issues into one bill. It's bad. It's a bad way to bake the cake, to make the sausage. So he's a proponent of that. In fact, that's one of the things that the real extremists who are always firing speakers, you know, the Marjorie Taylor Greenes of the world and the Matt Gaetz, and that's something that I agree with them. They also say no more of these big omnibus bills and no more of these packages. Give us one vote, one clean vote on one clean issue. So, yeah, I agree with Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz. So on this one, yeah, there was talk about making them three separate bills, one for Ukraine, one for Israel, one for some other issues. And I try to be logically consistent and morally consistent. I've told you over the years that I've kind of gone from pretty much a flat-out pacifist to I've changed. I mean, I understand you have to defend yourself sometimes. I'm all for defense. The problem is, you call here in America you call it the Defense Department, but then you use it to invade and attack and occupy. No, I would support a defense system that actually defended. But when you start playing with concepts and playing with words and preemptive strikes and, well, we have to attack and we have to invade, or no. It's not. There are times when it's confusing, but then there are times when it's not. There are certain cases when you can tell who the invader is and who is being oppressed or attacked. It's not that complicated, even for those of us, in the civilian corps. Ukraine is defending. Russia is attacking. You can't really find a lot of nuance there. And people who try to defend the actions of Putin and say it is somehow in defense of the motherland, you got to jump through some pretty serious hoops to accept that kind of propaganda. All the lies about the provinces along the Russian border being actually Russian or historically Russian or linguistically Russian or they really want to be Russian, that's just all a lot of BS. And you don't have to be an international expert to figure that out. So, yeah, Russia is attacking. Ukraine is defending. And for that reason, I totally support financial support and arms to Ukraine. Yeah. Sorry, I know all my pacifist friends disappointed in me, but I'm okay with defense. I really am. Israel, on the other hand, I don't care. You can point to the events of October 7th all you want. This hasn't been a defensive military expedition for quite a while. Since October 8th. It was an attack. It was over. And it's just been nothing but absolute revenge and war crimes ever since. Israel is the oppressor. Israel is the one on the attack. They're not defending anything. So I don't favor funding to Israel. So, yeah, put them in 3 separate bills. As far as all the machinations of Congress and Capitol Hill, I'm not sure how it's going to play out. By the time you hear this, maybe there's some answers. Not even sure if Mike Johnson is going to survive his speakership. He probably will. But Marjorie Taylor Greene, she just tweeted. What did she say? I've got it here in my notes. Addressing Johnson directly, quote, "You are seriously out of step with Republicans by continuing to pass bills dependent on Democrats." So that's in reference to these issues. But, I know why. The reason I pulled that quote, that's now the litmus test. They only have like a 1 or 2 person majority in the House. You saying that he can't pass bills unless the Republicans are 100% in agreement? In other words, you couldn't lose 10 or 15 Republicans on a particular issue, but then gain 20 Democrats and call that a win? You can't call that a win? No, any bill that passes that depends on a Democratic vote, in the eyes of Marjorie Taylor Greene, that's unacceptable. That's how MAGA Republicans want to govern. They don't want the other party to exist in any real way. That's just such a weird thing to say. You are seriously out of step with Republicans by continuing to pass bills dependent on Democrats. Well, all bills should depend on both sides. If you had normal sides, if you had normal parties. I mean, look at Israel. Some of the progressives, Bernie included, myself included, if I were a member of Congress, which I'm not, don't want aid to Israel. Most Democrats do. So they'd have to pass that bill with the help of Republicans, and nobody's saying that's out of step. It's out of step with the Democratic Party if you continue to pass bills dependent on Republicans. Of course not. They'll take a Republican vote whenever they can get one. That's what you're there for. You're there to govern, stupid. What a deplorable thing to say. So we'll see what happens. Again, by the time you hear this, maybe there's a lot more that's news than I know about. But still no aid to Ukraine, still no aid to Israel. And one way or another, it's got to happen. Well, no, it doesn't. I mean, they could just let Ukraine flap in the wind, which they're doing now. And that's a whole bigger issue. I still can't quite figure how MAGA Republicans just fell in love with Vladimir Putin. That's such a weird dynamic. There's still a hope of this, it's called a discharge petition. If even though Speaker Johnson is trying to get this to a vote, to the floor, he's being threatened by the MAGA caucus. So if he can't get it done, this discharge petition is an end around. And basically, it just means you have to get enough people to sign this petition, and that puts the vote on the floor without the speaker's say-so. But I think they need like 20 Republicans to sign it. That looks doubtful. Maybe we'll pick up on this. Oh, you know what? I want to mention something from a couple weeks ago, just real quick. You know, I can get kind of ornery, right? I mean, you know that. But I just want to tell you about something I absolutely loved. And that was a couple Monday nights ago on PBS. They had a great little concert in honor of Elton John and Bernie Taupin, who received the Gershwin Prize for popular music. And of the many great moments of the night, the one that stood out for me was Joni Mitchell's performance of I'm Still Standing. Our own Sister Strings from Milwaukee continues to have they've had the most incredible run over the last year. They were there accompanying Annie Lennox and Brandi Carlile singing backup. Oh, it was just so great. Yeah, the big tip of the cap to Shanti and Monique Ross, Sister Strings, the pride of Milwaukee. They're out there getting it done, just doing all the coolest gigs. And I just wanted to mention it because it was just beautiful. It was just beautiful. By the way, Sister Strings, they were there. They were up on stage all night. They accompanied everybody. Annie Lennox and the sister of Ryan White came out and read a letter because, of course, Elton John, very active in the gay rights community. Garth Brooks did a nice number. Yeah, Sister Strings right there with all of them. And they accompanied Elton himself when he took the stage. So pretty big deal. But I bring this up for two reasons. Like I said, I get really ornery about lots of stuff. And I get very critical. In the arts because I just can't stand mediocre BS in the arts because I know how great it can be, right? When you love great art, doesn't bad art just make you mad? Maybe it's just me. I'm not talking amateur art. I think everybody should make art, whether it's good or not. No, that's not what I'm talking about. If you make bad art, bully for you, do it. That's not at all what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people who become big stars and everybody thinks it's great and everybody's their minds are twisted thinking that this money-driven crap is good. It's a kind of cultural brainwashing that just makes me crazy. And so when I see music, art, film that really is wonderful and beautiful and moving, it just makes me so happy. And then the next time I see the BS, I'm reminded of the chasm between the two. And it's not just a matter of taste. It's just really, okay. And then the second reason, I think I said there were two reasons. The second reason is their acceptance speeches. Again, Bernie Taupin and Elton John winning the Gershwin Prize. They both got up and spoke. And they really talked a lot about America and how much there is to love about America. And I thought, yeah, there is. And this is very much related to what I was just talking about. That so much of the culture of America has been exported to the world. And it's just beautiful. We hang in there. We do a good job. There's very little to love. And I talk about it every week. There's almost nothing to love about American politics, the economy, issues of war and peace, imperialism, income inequality. We are screwing up on almost every front. We're like Bizarro World. We're doing almost everything wrong. But in spite of that, we have the most beautiful people doing the most beautiful things in the arts, in sciences, in education, people trying to save the environment. We can be such a beautiful people. So I watched this awards show, bursting with pride about my old River West neighbors, Sister Strings, and hearing the most beautiful music being performed, and then getting this wonderful little life lesson from a couple of Brits, Bernie and Elton, about how grateful they are for American culture. And yeah, we are great. So when I get on here every week and bitch and moan about how America sucks, well, again, politics, economy, war and peace, we do suck. We do practically everything wrong. We're about 180 degrees in the wrong direction on almost everything. But I tell you, the people themselves, the culture, the arts, the sciences, we can really be beautiful. And that was a nice moment. It was a really nice moment. And I just thought I'd share my feelings on that with you. All right. Okay. There it is. That's the log for today. Again, this can be found on any of your platforms, wherever you find your podcast. Thanks to River West Radio, riverwestradio.com, for being our flagship terrestrial station. Follow me on Facebook. Write to me, charlespurcell@gmail.com. And thanks to Peter Donalds, who wrote and performed the theme music. All right, that's the log. See you.